Welcome to today's episode of my podcast, Schlick Sports, made in the River City. I'm your host, Noah Schlicksup, and in today's episode, I'll be talking with former JU pitcher, played at Episcopal here in Jacksonville in high school, and now in the Independent League, Greg Shannahan. Me and Greg had a really fun conversation. He raised some very interesting points and talked about some things that I hadn't previously done in my podcast or on my YouTube channel. So whether you're watching on a podcast platform or on YouTube, hope you guys enjoy. All right, so you want to get started?
Yeah, what can I answer for you about JU baseball or anything really?
All right, well, I figured I got some questions here about your career, just some notes that I jotted down. So I'll ask you about, from your days in high school, younger baseball to, what you're doing now.
I hope you didn't pull any stats or professional or college stats. I don't have any great representation there.
I wasn't able to pull out any stats, sorry, since high school.
No, that's fine by me.
You always have that ERA to drop back on from your high school days.
I did have I had a really good senior year in high school. I had a pretty good junior year too. I started out at Episcopal my freshman year. I got some varsity playing time, in the preseason and the spring break tournaments, and then in the postseason. I was up, didn't get to play in the postseason, but I actually was really focused on trying to be an everyday player as well as a pitcher. So I busted my butt real hard to try and start at first base. Ended up getting to do that my sophomore year. So I played first base and pitched from there on, and had a pretty fun high school career. A lot of good friends that I kept up with. A lot of good coaching, a lot of good people that were just a very important part of my life. And that was enjoyable. I had a really good high school experience, especially in the later years when we were winning a lot. We had a good team, had a lot of guys go on to play college baseball, which was pretty exciting. It was nice to beat up on some of our crosstown rivals like Creekside or Bulls, So I had one little stretch where actually in my senior season, I broke my hand running onto the field. It was a freak accident.
Really?
We were taking BP, and I was jogging onto the field during BP, and our starting center fielder smoked the ball down the line at me when I was just trotting onto the field. And I just kind of threw my glove at it, and it took one of those nasty middle hops and caught me right about there, and broke my wrist. So I ended up missing half the season, and I made up for it with tons of innings and got pretty hot there at the end. So it was a fun run.
Yeah, that is a real freak accident right there. But going back to the very start, when was your first season that you played baseball?
First season, like overall?
Yeah.
Gosh, I was a kid, man. I couldn't tell you what age I actually was. I'd have to say probably 6 or 7, maybe, when I started doing that. But my dad had a big love for baseball. He was very involved in my upbringing and the way I trained as a kid. Got me a lot of great opportunities, put me in tons of places to really just push myself. And that's one of the main foundational things he taught me. Could have used a little more fun, but I got pretty good at working hard, and I stuck with baseball. I always wanted to be the best. I've wanted to play. I wanted to not only play in the big leagues, but I wanted to be the best, ever since I was a kid. So it's something that has influenced me beyond anything else in my career or my life, in terms of like goal development and who I really identify myself as a person.
Yeah, it's always the thing that sticks out with those types of people that go really far in sports and anything is the work ethic, as well as, a lot of people have natural talent as well. That helps. Yeah. But, I just wonder here, was baseball your favorite sport from, early on, or was it something else?
Baseball was always it for me. I love playing basketball. I had the worst shot on the team always. I was one of the best sixth men, though. They'd take me off the bench and they'd say, "Hey, get a lot of rebounds." But I stopped playing basketball. I stopped playing basketball in high school. So, say again?
You guys got a good history. I mean, or just the area. They got a good history of 6 men. Darius Williams just won a Super Bowl, and he was the sixth man over at Creekside.
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, and I actually didn't play in high school, unfortunately. I remember Mike Jones, the high school baseball coach, goes, "You can play basketball at Episcopal if you don't want to play varsity baseball." It's like,
Oh
all right,
no.
man. Well, which takes me to something that I'm actually very opposed to is sports specificity at a young age. You know, you got to go out there and play as many different things as you can. You're gonna learn so many different things that you practice more in basketball or football or, you know, tons of different athletic developments that help your baseball game that I wish I would have been more privy to when I was younger. Would have helped me out a lot more with my athletic development.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you look at sports like even track and field helps with everything. Basketball, if you were to play football, for example, that helps a lot with strength and everything. My little sister, she's let's see, 8 years old now, and she's getting into all the sports. So we're trying to make her. She wants to play too much, and that's the issue right now. But it is kind of fun to see her growing. We took her to a game where Creekside was playing Bishop Kenny girls basketball, and there's this one player that kept on making threes after threes after threes. That inspired her because now she wants to play flag football, softball, basketball, volleyball, and soccer.
Yeah, she's gonna have some choices to make for sure, but that's exciting. When you get the bug, man, you get the bug. You just
Yeah,
can't sit still. You got to get out there and play. You know.
it's really fun to see that, and reminds me of me. But of course, she's way more athletic than I ever was, so that's gonna help her out too. So you mentioned your time at Episcopal there. You guys were really successful during your time there. You never had a losing season, and
Mhm.
by a lot too when you're playing varsity. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on, what it takes to build such a winning culture and a winning program like that.
I mean, you said it right there. You said culture. Culture is probably the biggest single indicator of how well a team's going to play. Been on lots of teams with lots of talent, been on lots of teams with no talent. And the ones that have culture somehow find a way to win. And that's a pretty JU mindset, which is kind of funny because there's levels to other things. You can't win on culture alone, but that definitely is something that's going to promote all the other things that happen, all the other things that create success, that cohesiveness. So we had that going for us. We spent a lot of time together at Episcopal. We'd hang out at a buddy's house, and even after games or on the weekends, when we'd have practice. It was a good group environment. Really, really close core group of guys that definitely led to the success we had. And you said successful, but man, it really really gets me not getting a state title out of that, especially because we made it to 4 regional finals and lost 4 regional finals in a row to the same team every year. Man, it was just a gut punch.
Now that's a rivalry right there.
Yeah, for sure. And 3 of the games went into extra innings, and the one that didn't go into extra innings, we lost 3-2. So it was we faced some great pitching. The team was Pensacola Catholic.
Mhm.
They had a guy, gosh, I can't remember his name, but he was an absolute stud. He threw 10 innings 2 years in a row. And it was just like, I think he threw 160 pitches roughly. And he started out the game sitting 86, 87, finishing the game throwing like low 90s. And just one of those guys who would get better as he would go on. And he really had our number. He really got us this freshman and sophomore year.
Yeah, are you sure that's not Kyle Hendricks you faced?
Yeah, I wish I could think of his name, man. I've looked this guy up multiple times. He went on to play at Ole Miss, actually.
Really?
But he only played there for, I don't even know if he made it to the spring there. He ended up going to a junior college the following year, or maybe 2 years later, something like that. Just things happen, in college baseball.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you certainly can attest to that. You had a few injuries during your time at GU. You also went through a coaching change, and still somehow you guys managed to win. You still, are playing to this day. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that and, how you were able to keep on pushing as a baseball player there at JU and even now?
Yeah, man, that's a really good loaded question. It's funny. At one point in the program, you said there's a coaching change. I was the second highest tenured person in the program. There was the head coach who had been there he played there for 4 years, I believe, and then he was there for a period after that. And then he had a head coaching stint at a junior college, and he was back at JU. So he was probably at JU for a collective, 8 or 9 years. And I had been there for 5. So it was like the coaching staff, the rest of the guys had been, the next most tenured coach was 2 years. And then all the players, there were some guys who had been there for 3 or 4 years, but I was the oldest Dolphin in that group. But I had Tommy John my sophomore year, which ended up giving me that 5th year. I was really rolling hot, man. I always have been a really good competitor, self-proclaimed. I'm sure there are other people that feel that way too, but that's kind of what I think is my competitive advantage in the world of sports, is I'm a really good competitor. And I always felt like I had more to give, and I started proving it my sophomore year in college. Because I had an okay freshman year, got a lot of innings for a freshman, I think somewhere around 45. But my ERA was a little lackluster. I think it was around a 5 or something like that. But I was competing, I was putting up some good games, having some bad games, playing some tough people. But my sophomore year, I was pitcher of the fall. I went out, I threw 10 innings and hadn't given up a run. I'd only given up like 2 or 3 hits. And then in that, going into the 6th inning against Columbia, I tore my UCL on a changeup of all pitches. Wow. Tore it on a 1-0 count, 1-1 count, something like that. And I felt that thing pop, and I was like, oh man, you feel it here, and then you feel it burn all the way down, and you're just like, it doesn't hurt. You're not like, that feels terrible, but you're like, that something's not right about that. You really, something's not right. Ended up throwing another changeup after that, got the guy to pop out, and then I said, hey, you guys got to pull me. I'm toast. I had a really good surgery experience. I had a great surgeon, Dr. Kaplan, do my surgery, which was actually surprising to me that it was torn, because in the following days I felt no pain. I didn't throw at all, but I had none of the symptoms other than when I throw it felt burning.
Yeah.
Which I guess is a pretty big symptom, But I had a great surgery experience. I really wish I would have known Torque Sports of Atlas Physical Therapy when I had gotten through my rehab process, because I think that would have set me up for greater success moving forward. But I got back within 12 months to the date. First inning, I think I was up to like 92, 93. And my first start back, and my first appearance back. And in the second inning, I didn't break 86. And in the rest of the season, I couldn't break 84. It was just riddled with shoulder pain, elbow pain, tons of dysfunctions within my body, things that have kind of been built up from poor training decisions whenever I was in high school, some inefficient methods I was using, and then also not focusing on things I needed to. I was always a guy who would thought that if you work harder, you're going to get better. And that's not necessarily the case. There's some guys who, like we used to joke, because there's one year at UNF where all their guys were throwing heat. Like they were throwing like mid-90s out of nowhere. Like the year before, they were touching like 88, 89. They had some hard throwers. They had some good pitchers. But then the next year, they're just throwing gas. And I was talking to a pitching coach who's a friend of a friend. And he's like, yeah, man, all those guys did was sit on their butt and play Fortnite. I was like, so there's a level of working hard and working in the right direction. And I have come to accept that working hard includes doing the research to find out that you're working in the right direction. You're doing the right things that are going to make you successful, as opposed to just doing things that make you tired or make it, that no pain, no gain mentality doesn't really have a place in a lot of baseball. There's definitely a time and a place for mental toughness, time and a place to learn how to build past that fatigue point. But when it comes to baseball, oftentimes, we sit in the dugout, man. We can eat a hot dog in the middle of innings if we want to. You don't have to be super conditioned in the sense that most people think of it. You have to be able to do something at your most high intent, 100 times a game. Mm-hmm. But you don't have to go run 15 miles in your game. It's not a soccer game. You're not back and forth. You're not out of breath. You're just trying to maintain your optimal performance as long as you can. I got a little sidetracked there. But figuring these things out that I just mentioned is kind of what keeps me going today. It's I've always wanted to compete. I've always wanted to prove that I was the best of myself. I'm not really looking to prove anything outward, but every time I got back in JU, I would have a decent fall. I would get a lot of outs, wouldn't get hit that hard, would have a good spring going into the season, and then it would just be something wasn't right. It was shoulder pain, or my senior year, I rolled my ankle that kept me out for 2 months. And it was just like these little things, man, that just kept keeping me out. And it goes back to that working harder, not working smarter, because had I been working smarter and picked my head out of the sand, I would have been like, hey, I need to work on my ankle mobility, my ankle strength, or I need to get some deficiencies addressed in my mechanics, or read or learn why does my shoulder start giving out whenever I'm 3 months into throwing? Why does this kind of pain persist? And instead I was like, okay, I'll just follow whatever these coaches tell me and go harder. So for everything I built up work ethic wise, I really lost a lot of the mentality of how you should approach with routines and focused effort instead of just straight up effort. But that's why I kept going, because I would learn more. I would become more infatuated with it. I was like, wow, look at this result that I've gotten from this. I wish I would have known this in high school. I wish I would have known this before, or had this training experience before. And now, man, I love it. The off season is almost one of my favorite parts, because I just train with my best friends for 5 hours a day. I go train for 5 hours with some big leaguers, some pro guys that I play ball with, some other athletes. I met a lot of cool football guys through Torque. I also did a training stint at Schlick Sports Performance. And, the more I deal with it, the more I realize that I'm in love with the process. And it's a lot of fun. Throwing baseball's hard, man. It's a really enjoyable career.
Yeah.
It's striking people out.
Yeah, I'd enjoy that more than being on the other side of it. And I mean, having that 95-mile-an-hour gas coming at you. You also answered, I was going to ask what your advice would be for, high schoolers that were listening to this. You answered that pretty thoroughly with that question there. I want to talk a little bit about JU and how, they've been really producing some big league talent lately and been on the rise as a program. 2019, you guys got up to 16th ranked in the country. So what are your thoughts on the program and, the direction it's taken and what Coach Hayes is building over there?
So it goes back to culture. That's one thing that Coach Hayes really, really does exceptionally well. And I think that's his biggest advantage, is culture. You get a group of 35 guys together from different backgrounds who love each other. We spend so much time together. We just our worlds collided and we all stuck together. And we all went through the same training, the same, rough mornings, whatever it is, 6 a.m. field practices. Not necessarily an advocate of those, but in some aspect, they really did bring us closer together. He builds that program on grit and toughness, and you won't find any tougher guys than JU Dolphins. Then we don't really make a lot of friends on the field, but the more we push people away on the field, the closer we get in the locker room in a lot of ways. And I think that's where a lot of that growth has come. And I think that Coach Hayes is really starting to see the value in more player development, starting to see the value in maybe backing off the gas a little bit. And I think that in the coming years, especially with the right people in place, I think Wilkerson is a great coach. He's one of the guys who's new from last year, I believe. Exceptional guy. Jerry's a great guy too. They're listening. They're following the new best practices. They're giving players a chance to develop, players a chance to really grow. And, that's something that you're going to see more of moving forward. And I definitely think that you should keep an eye out for JU baseball if they continue to persist on this path, because that's what all it is. If you can't get the best players, you have to develop them. And if you're not developing the best players, then you're going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can grit your way through anything you want, and in championship time, it really helps. But you know, the development and talent really does play a factor in it as well. It takes pressure off of you, puts it on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned earlier we didn't make friends on the field, and that could definitely go on a T-shirt. But that kind of reminds me a little bit of Iowa football. As you can see, I'm wearing a Hawkeye shirt
Oh
from
yeah,
the Midwest, and how they take these. You know, George Kittle was like the 199th ranked prospect, and I think that was just out of receiving stuff. He was a 3-star, and they turned him into top 2 tight end in the NFL. JU
yeah.
did a great job producing guys like Austin Hayes, who's now at the big league level. Trent Palmer threw 2 no-hitters, I think, last year in the minor league.
He did, man.
And this year they're turning heads already with the FSU win. They're building something over there, and you can say you were a part of it, on the ground floor, with Hayes getting there, and I'm sure there's still guys there that you played with, so it's got to be cool for you to see. But you've moved on, playing now independent league baseball, and that's something I haven't talked to an independent league player before, so I'm wondering what that experience is like. Whereas how that differs from, say, a minor leaguer.
It's funny that you say that. It really depends on where you're at. So where I've been for the last 2 years, which I won't be returning to, it was the United Shore Professional Baseball League.
Mm-hmm.
They run a great show up there in terms of fan experience, and they have a lot of really good talent in there. What you'll find the difference between minor league baseball and independent baseball is you'll get a lot of guys in indie ball who don't know what's going on. But then you get a lot of guys who are really, really talented. And it's so funny, guys who slip through the cracks. Like I played last year with a guy named Colton. What's his last name? If you looked him up, you would see a million things on him anyways. He won like 30 games in a row in NAIA baseball, like undefeated until his last game, which he ended up getting beat in. And it was like a close game anyways. It's like some kind of championship too. One of the best pitchers that college baseball has probably ever seen, regardless of what level you're talking at. An NAIA program can put up a Friday roster like a D1 program can't. I'm not saying it's going to be like NC State with Tommy White's out there, but it's going to be a pretty good team that can hang with most guys. Whoever's on the bump usually is going to dictate what that day is going to go like. So you get guys like that, and then that's what I'd have to say is the main difference. In A ball, you have high level guys. You'll have your top level prospects, but everybody's there for a reason. In Double A, same thing. Everybody's there for a reason. You have some guys who maybe are less talented, but they've been in the system for a while, and they know the game. They really know how to compete. They really know what their offering is and what they specialize in, and how to uplift other players. You get some 19-year-old kid from nowhere who's now all of a sudden got $1.5 million in his pocket, doesn't know what to do, doesn't know how to train. He just has a lightning bolt for an arm, and which is knows how to be athletic and rotate, but maybe doesn't know how to take care of his body, doesn't know how to sleep, eat, cover. Everybody who's at a Double A level is at a Double A level. Everybody who's in the USPBL is all over the place, man. We had one guy 1 year, he only had like 2 at-bats. I think he was there to catch bullpens, but he only played high school baseball. And this guy's cashing a professional baseball check. I mean, it's not much, not much at all. But still. And then you have this one guy who's a stud in the Colombian League who I played with. His name's Don Goodson. You should check him out. He's up to like 99 fastball velo, has the nastiest changeup you'll ever see. Really cool dude. Really, really cool dude. He was a track runner in college, I believe, and track runner transition pitcher some way, somehow. But you get that disparity in independent ball. And then also if you're in like so there's 3 leagues that are 4 leagues that are the main leagues. There's the Frontier League, the American League, the Atlantic League, and the Pioneer League. Those are the four that I would say are the main leagues. Frontier and American, you'll have some teams that have PB&J sandwiches for dinner once every other game, and they're sleeping in the Motel 6. In the same league, though, you'll have some teams that sell out 10,000 people stadiums, like the Milwaukee Milkmen, and they make good money. They can make a living off of some of it. I'm not going to say it's going to be the glamorous lifestyle, but they're going to make enough to do what they love to do. Atlantic League is a bunch of studs. That's basically like whenever you're not necessarily fitting a role in a major league organization, you go to the American League or the Atlantic League. But that's the difference. There's some subtle aspects that pertain to each league, but then when it comes to like A ball, minor league ball, you're just organization by organization, but the talent level is pretty consistent, I would say.
And then one thing I was wondering is, whenever the baseball career comes to an end, what are you planning on doing after that? Because, I mean, just from talking to you, you seem like a guy who could definitely coach a high school baseball team.
Well, thanks, man. I currently actually have started a business for baseball instruction. What I want that to turn into isn't necessarily baseball instruction, but as of right now, it's a means to an end to keep me playing. So to give you my answer that I'll tell you, I want to play baseball. At the same time, though, I could definitely see falling into avenues of player development, or I would totally get out of baseball. It might be one of those things that if you can't play it, you don't want to be around it. It'd be like having dinner with your ex-girlfriend every night. It's like, yeah, we're still hanging out, but it's a little different, and it might rub you the wrong way. So it's something that I'm going to cross that bridge when it gets there. Which, heck, man, I'm actually dealing with some shoulder pain right now. I'm not going to be playing this upcoming season. This upcoming spring, I'm not going to start it. I might play in the spring, but I am gearing up towards Winter League. What Winter League I'll be playing in, I don't know. Especially if the MLB stays locked out, might be competing with some guys who are on a 40-man. That might be really really tough for me unless I have some developmental jumps. But there's a lot of avenues I can go. I'm pretty adaptable. I like to learn. I like to work hard, like I told you earlier. So whatever it is, I'll get consistent with it. I'll work at it every day, and I'll probably be pretty good at it.
All right. Well, that's all the questions I got for you, but I do have some fun would you rathers to finish out the interview here.
Cool. I'm game. Let's do it.
All right. So would you rather go back? I saw this on Twitter one day, and it's interesting. I figured I'd ask somebody it. So I have, would you rather go back to age 6 with all the knowledge you have now, or would you keep it the same?
Gosh, that's a funny question. If I go back to age 6 with all the knowledge I have now, I wouldn't be like sitting in this room right now. I'd be in the big leagues. That's what I feel like. And it's tough, but I wouldn't trade a thing that I've done for anything else. I think that the life I've lived is pretty exceptional. The people I've met is pretty exceptional. And I mean, shoot, man, I'm only a quarter of the way done, unless in the future we can live to like 200, then I'm only an eighth of the way done. So I definitely would say I'll stay where I'm at. I'm very happy with who I am and who I've become. So I think that's important too. I think it's important to be like that.
I always think you're at the age where you can bet, so you can go back and you can make some serious cash off predicting the future, becoming a psychic or something.
See, I think that's so funny when people say that, like, oh, I wish I could go time and bet on this. Dude, I would forget who won. I'd be like, I'd have to like rely on huge things like World Series or Super Bowl wins, Like I'm having a hard enough time remembering who won the Super Bowl this year.
If you go back to 2012 and bet that the Cubs are going to win the World Series in 2016, no one would have believed you.
Oh, yeah.
And then would you rather, this is my go-to with everyone, would you rather eat Italian or Mexican food?
Mexican food.
There
I made
we
tacos
go.
last night. I made tacos last night, man.
This the first Mexican answer I've gotten in a while. Everyone goes, that's tough. And then they go Italian. We finally have a Mexican on the podcast.
You know, it's funny though because I've never had authentic Italian cuisine, which I don't know if somebody sees this and wants to make me some authentic Italian cuisine, I'm game, you know, but I would love to go to Italy and try their food. But if you just told me, man, go to the taco truck down the street, I'm a happy person. Maybe a
Yeah,
couple margaritas, get it rolling a little bit. It's one of my favorites.
I'm not a huge spice guy, but I do enjoy whenever my mom makes tacos in the house or we go out somewhere. I'm getting into burritos a little bit. We'll see where that goes. And
Yeah,
the last
I live off Chipotle.
And then this is the last one I got for you here. Would you rather throw a no-hitter or 6 shutouts? 6 straight shutouts.
What context? Am I in the big leagues or am I just doing it right now?
Anywhere.
Oh gosh, man. Well, if it's gonna go down in history, maybe a no-hitter, but I think 6 shutouts is I'm leaning that way for sure.
All right.
6 shutouts is balling. That's a good season.
Yeah, it is. Just if you are in the big leagues, I would have gone with a no-hitter. But then again, you're trying to turn some heads. 6 straight shutout games. That'd be a good note for a broadcast, by the way. I mean,
that would be, man.
Heads.
Can you do it? The 6th one? Yeah, that's funny. That'd be cool.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this, Greg. I had a nice time getting to chat with you a bit.
Hey, absolutely. It was an honor to be asked to be on a podcast and interview. I really appreciate it, man. You got a really cool, really put together show that you got going on here. So I hope it continues to grow and continues to be everything that you want it to be.
Thank you guys for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Be sure to follow, leave a good review if you're listening on a podcast platform, no matter what. Be sure to share with your friends. Help get this out there. It is much appreciated. And until next time, I'm Noah Schlick Sports signing off. See you next week here in the River City.